Have you ever stood in front of a mirror, looked at yourself in the eyes, and said something positive about yourself, only to have the inner voice immediately respond and say, "Yeah, right," or "Who are you kidding?" You're not alone. That moment of disconnect when we try to speak kindly to ourselves but feel like we're lying is exactly where millions of men and women find themselves trapped. We're told that positive thinking will change our lives, that affirmations are the key to success and happiness. So we try them. We repeat the words, we follow the formulas, and yet for many of us, something feels off. The words bounce off our minds like rubber balls against concrete. Maybe you've downloaded the apps, bought the books, or even tried standing in front of the mirror every morning, declaring yourself worthy, capable, and destined for greatness. But deep down, there's a nagging feeling that you're just going through the motions, that you're speaking a language your soul doesn't recognize. Here's what most conversations about positive affirmations miss entirely. The problem isn't with affirmations themselves, it's that we've never been taught how to have an authentic relationship with our own minds. We've been handed a solution without understanding the deeper question of why we struggle with self acceptance in the first place. So, this evening, we're going beyond the surface level mantras to motivational quotes. We're diving into hidden psychology behind why positive affirmations feel impossible for so many men or women, where our patterns of self doubt actually come from, and most importantly, how to transform your relationship with yourselves from the inside out. This isn't another episode about forcing positivity or pretending our struggles don't exist. This is about understanding the deeper mechanics of how our mind works, why authenticity matters more than optimism, and how genuine transformation happens when we stop trying to convince ourselves of things we don't believe and start building a foundation that can actually hold weight. By the end of this conversation tonight, you'll understand not just what positive affirmations are, but why they work for some and backfire for others. And most importantly, how to develop a practice of authentic dialogue that creates real, lasting change in how you see yourself and move through the world that we live in. So, that being said, let's get started. And you know how I like to do. I really do like getting the conversation started based upon a question that we can ask ourselves and really think into. Because at the end of the day, like you said, this is about positive affirmations. I've always, for a very long time, if you know me and people in the chat, they already know this. For those people who've been with me for a few years, I always say that I believe in positive affirmations, but there's a little bit more to it. If the foundation ain't right, the affirmation ain't right. So, why do some people spend years, in your opinion, of course, you really can't give an answer for them. So, I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for your opinion. Why do some people spend years telling themselves they're not good enough? But that same person would never say the same words to their best friend when their best friend find themselves in a situation, even if it's similar to theirs.
Man, first of all, I'm not going to scroll over the monologue. Man, if y'all hear, just hit a one if there was an outstanding monologue. The inflection, the tone of your voice, all of that stuff was freaking spot on. I was over here, I was just listening, I was vibing. I was like, I was rocking with it. And then the words and everything that you said about, I think you did a really good job of just setting the tone for the conversation. So much appreciated. Thanks, brother. And now let's get to this question. So why do some people spend years telling themselves they're not good enough? Let's leave it right there. There's a whole bunch of different reasons, but I think part of it is um they how can I say it? Some people have a certain impression of themselves, right? And then if I tell them, if I say something about myself that I'm not good enough, then that's negative. And I don't want to be negative, you know. So I think some of it is people not wanting to be negative about that thing. And I think that's where sometimes the positive affirmation comes in, kind of what you was alluding to. Just positive affirmations alone may not be good enough. I also believe that there may be some work done that needs to be done sometimes as well, depending on what the information is. And then I also think at the same person would never say that same words to their best friend. And I think that's where the empathy kicks in, and you may not want to hurt that person's feelings. You know what I mean? You be like, we could take the same situation, say for instance, both of us are um how can I say? I'm trying to think of something easy. I would say fitness, right? I would say fitness. Both of us, we may be a little bit larger than what we should be. And then now it's time that we need to start um working out. We're 49 years old, we're 40 pounds overweight. That's fine, right? And we're like, I don't know if I can do this, right? And this is what I'm telling myself. Well, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I'm good enough. But then my friend coach over here be like, coach, like, man, you know, um, I don't know. It's just like I don't know if I will be able to. I can now where I'm at right now, but being able to tell my friend, "Hey, you're not good enough," or "Hey, coach, like, yeah, man, I've been working out. I did 3 push-ups today, and I'm gonna work out again next week." you know, Empathetically, I was like, yeah, I want to cheer him on. I'm like, yeah, coach, man, good job, bro, man. Them 3 push-ups, man. You on your way to something. And I might not be like, come on, bro. Really? You was in the army, you did 20 years, bro. And you can only do 3 push-ups? Like, you know what I mean? Because then I got to hold him accountable. And now, if I hold him accountable, how is that going to affect our relationship? So I think it's a lot of different reasons why some people don't necessarily want to have that same energy for somebody else. I said a lot. I think I may have missed the target a couple times, but kind of went around it. But that's kind of where I'm gonna sit at right now. And I'm sure you're going to add a little bit more to it.
No, this isn't about missing a target. That's why I started off
Hmm.
by saying, in your opinion, right? Because these are just, our best perceptions of why. And in some cases, we were this person,
Hmm.
in different situations, whatever. And I'm not going to make it sound as though that we couldn't have been. I know at one point in time I was, right?
Hmm.
I've said before, when I was younger, I had low self-esteem, but I had friends and I would be the one trying to cheer them on. I wanted to cheer myself on. It's just that I just didn't believe in the same cheers that I gave to them. So then the question that I ask is, were those cheers that I had for them, were they authentic? Because if I don't believe it, but I'm cheering you on, right? So going and doing the exact same thing that you did, like, why do some people spend years telling themselves they're not good enough? Because in their mind, they can't define enough.
Mm.
That's where I would start at. First of all, they can't define enough. So when I'm looking at what you're doing and I'm like, I'm super awestruck because of the awesomeness of Garfield Martin, and then I look at what I'm doing, and then I start doing a comparison thing. Well, to me, that now becomes my measure of enough. You become the measure of enough because I'm measuring me against you. But yet, when I start looking at it, like, I can't do the self-talk that motivates me to do the thing that you're doing. So now the line for me becomes enough, even though there is no metric to enough in my mind. The other side to it, and I do this all the time when I talk with young leaders in the army, I tell them, I say, you're going to have people in your formation to where you're going to be the first positive person that they ever met in their life. What do I mean when I say that? Some people come from areas to where no one ever told them anything positive. No one ever said, I believe in you. No one ever said that, you know what, I see greatness in you. Like, you can accomplish anything you set your mind to. Like, you got young men and women, 18, 19 years old, first time away from home, first time outside of their environment, and all they see is doom, gloom, and destruction. And then they come here, and then they get up under Lieutenant Martin, and then they see a positive black man as a lieutenant. And I'm just using that as an example, not saying that
Mhm.
that's the limitations of it. Right? He could have been a positive white man. It could have been a positive brown man. It doesn't really matter the complexion. It just matters the mentality, the mindset. And so when they hear you speak that positivity in them, it's like, wow, like this is different. I've never experienced this before. So I believe part of that not good enough also comes from the absence of someone telling you in your earlier years what they see in you as far as potential. Now, on the flip side, because I've always said it, every person is made up of three different people, right? You got the mirror, you got the core, you got the mirror, and then you got the person that they're striving to be, right? The person that they're striving to be might be the person that they're trying to connect with, but they feel like they're not good enough to achieve that person.
Mm.
The core is who they are, which reminds them constantly of their upbringing, so forth and so on. But then they got, you know, the mirror, and the mirror is the person that they feel that they need to be in their environment. And so, according to that friend that's about to tackle this monumental task of awesomeness and greatness, wonderful things, they believe that that environment is requiring them to be a cheerleader for the friend, and so they do that the best way that they know how. But then by that same token, they don't really believe it again because again, going back through all of that from their past and things of that nature, they never had nobody do it for them. So how can I cheer for somebody else? So I think all of that, even though I don't think that that's the 100% answer,
Mhm.
include everything that you said, whatever I said, whatever everybody in the comments said
Yeah.
already, right? All of that, because I think all of that is part of the puzzle. Because
Mhm.
when we look at people, when we look at humanity, when we look at human nature, it is one of the most pleasantly mysterious things that we'll ever encounter.
Mhm.
That was a strange place to drop the mic, wasn't it?
Yeah, 'cause I thought you I'm like, "Is he keep
No,
going?" I'm just like,
no.
"Okay."
I think I'm gonna leave it right there because because if we think about it, everything about human behavior is theoretical.
Mhm.
Everything about human behavior. That's why I love it when people start talking about certain aspects of certain things. I'm like, but where do
Mhm.
you get that? Where do you get that from? Well, the
Oh,
only way that
absolute.
well, they talk in terms of absolute, but
Mm.
they talk in terms of absolute hope.
Mm.
That's it. They just have absolute hope. But if they really stop and think about what they're saying, you should only have absolute hope in one thing and one thing only. But your absolute hope is based upon the combination of multiple theories. So if you take the combination of multiple theories and come up with a theoretical hopeful outcome, then you're moving the needle so far away from reality that you really didn't even realize the only thing you did is took the exact same thing that already exists and you're talking about maturity, but you're going to give it another name. And then people will buy into it because they don't know no better.
Mm.
That's my point. Human behavior is a fantastic mystery. It is an awesome mystery. It's a glorious mystery that we all must go on a journey to not only learn about myself, but about myself, not selves as in multiple me's, right? But to learn about myself, but to learn about the people that's in this thing called relationship that I'm in with them.
Mhm. Ooh, see, even with the relationship piece, it just brought more of my talking point. With relationships, and we're talking about a best friend, right?
Mhm,
Most of us, well, I would say that, theoretically, when it comes to best friend, we have that space too. And I think some of this, when you that word maturity, how all of this, as I'm connecting it, is that me and my best friend, we've been best friends for over 30 something years. We have that space. I can say certain things to him. You know what I mean?
mhm,
And but I will say that their relationship that had to grow and mature. Even though we may be best friends, we may not be at the maturity level to have these conversations yet as well. You know what I mean? To whereas my best friend has opened up a space where I can go to him and say, bro, you're not good enough right now in this. Don't mean you can't get better, but right now, the way you got things going on in your relationship with your job, it ain't working, bro. That's not what's best. It ain't good enough. You coming to work late and then trying to, talking about, the boss should be okay. It's only 2 minutes late. Like, bro, no, you a grown man. You 49 years old. You know what I mean? But we had to get to a certain place or and a certain space in our relationship as best friends to be able to have these words and conversations too, because I may be there, but he may not, and vice versa. So sometimes people don't have the space to have these conversations in their relationship with their best friend as well too. Not that you can't or that it can't grow to that, but maybe the relationship may not be at that maturity, and you see it sometimes. That's why sometimes people say, oh, me and my best friend ain't speaking, for whatever reason. Maybe there was a conversation had to where one person was the maturity level to have the conversation, and the other person wasn't yet. So that's my 2 cents about the best friend piece right there.
Yeah, man. I mean, again, I think it's all. I think it kind of falls in line with what I said about having somebody speak positivity in you, so forth and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Because how we show up in relationship is a facet of who I know myself to be, right? So if I don't have a clear cut identity and I have not gotten to the point to where I understand how that identity kind of shows up in the space, like the
Mm-hmm.
expression of identity, right? Esteem, if you will. Well, that's how I show up in relationships. So if I'm struggling with my identity, I'm not going to be an authentic person in the space of relationship. So I'm going to
Mm.
put on a facade, making you think that I'm this awesome person, when in all actuality, I don't even like the person I am. That's why I'm showing you a different side of me. So, I think that's a great way to get this conversation started because, I mean, let's just be honest. It's interesting and it's funny because, going back to the human behavior aspect of it, I believe wholeheartedly that everybody in their own mindset, in their own way, is in pursuit of happiness, just like the movie Will Smith played in, right? Um,
Oh
we're,
yeah.
we're all chasing some version of it, right? It's not just wanting more, it's wiring. But here's the twist, like, are positive affirmations helping us become those people or secretly validating the fears that currently exist? I kind of want to give a quote first before we get into the question. Whatever you think you can do or believe you can do, begin it. Action has magic, power, and grace. And so that means that I just can't say a thing. It is a requirement for me to do something that lines up with the thing that I'm currently saying. So, that said, could striving for happiness be a new form of self doubt disguised as progress?
Could striving for happiness be a new form of self-doubt disguised as happiness? Short answer, yes. Here's why. I think when you're striving for happiness, I think if you're not happy and you're in a slump or you're sad or you're going through, one of those ebbs and flows of life or stuff like this, I think that you can think that you're not good enough, and you can miss that downfall or that sadness or that whatever emotion you're going through at that time is just part of the progress, was just part of the journey. But when you're fixed on being happy all the time, then you don't see that the down again is part of the journey. So then you have self-doubt and you say, well, you know what? I'm not good enough because, I'm training for this marathon. I'm supposed to be at this pace for this distance, and I'm not there anymore. You know what I'm saying? So now the self-doubt kicks in. You think you're not good enough, but hey, this is just part of the process. Your body's getting used to running this many miles, this amount of time, and yada, yada, yada. So, whereas you're not going to have that constant happiness after or feeling of achievement after every single race, because you're just focused on the feeling after, I mean, not every race, but every single workout. So now you just focus on uh, just feeling a certain way after the workout. But I think also, um, I lost my train of thought with this. I was trying to- oh, let me go back to my notes. You kind of get into that cycle again, man, of just measuring yourself against measure yourself against, those highs and lows, or just the highs, and not taking in consideration that it's part of the lows is part of all of this. So um let me pause right there. I'm gonna come back to it though. I
Okay.
think I was about three-quarters of the way through my thought.
Nope, you're good.
Mhm.
Um, as I read this question, I'm reminded of, and it may have absolutely nothing to do with this question,
Mhm.
and it may at the same time have everything to do with it. As I read this question, I'm reminded of a time when I was in the army. We were in the field, and it was cold, bro. It was cold
Mhm.
out there, and the private said, "Hey, Sergeant," because they never say the whole word sergeant, right? Hey,
Mhm.
Sergeant. Hey, Sergeant. What, private? I'm cold. I'm cold too, private. I said, but I tell you what, if you focus your attention on doing your job, I bet you won't even realize how cold you are.
Mhm.
Now, that held to be true in that situation. And that soldier continued to do his job, and he never told me he was cold anymore. 'Cause I don't think he believed I was willing to accept it.
Mhm.
Well, if I'm striving for happiness, at what level do I achieve happiness? I'm that person when I hear people say certain things. Well, I just want you to be happy, or I just want to be happy. My next statement or thought is define it.
Mhm.
What is happiness? I'm not talking about the textbook definition of happiness, right? I'm talking about to you, what is happiness?
Mm. Yep.
In most cases, the person who says, I just want you to be happy, or I just want to be happy, they can't define it. Or they define it based upon what somebody else does for them.
Mhm.
When you put a person in a mental cycle like that, then they stop and they're like, okay, so is happiness the pursuit? No, because if happiness is the pursuit, and number one, you can't define it, or you achieve it for a short period of time, like if everybody's seen the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, like they achieved the level of happy according to what the movie was showing. And then they went from here to down here, right? Kind of goes back to the ebbs and flows that you were just talking about. But if I can't define it, or if I believe that it is a constant state, a plateau in which I go to reside, then I might be missing the mark.
Mhm.
See, striving for happiness might be the problem because the only reason I'm striving for happiness is because inside I don't believe I'm happy. So why don't I work inside out first? Why don't I change the narrative? Why don't I do some self-work to become the happy person that is striving for something? So whether win, lose, or draw, achieve, fell short, whatever, I'm still happy in the journey because regardless of where I end up, it's not the same place where I started from. So even if I fail, I learned a lesson in the failure that would actually now elevate me the next time I try to a higher level of success. It may not be the success I wanted in the beginning, but that doesn't matter. Stop going back to the starting point after you get started. You create a new starting point now. So now, if I am moving forward and I don't necessarily meet the mark, this is my new starting point, not here. And a lot of times, what we do is we mentally come back here and we be like, man, I missed the mark. Well, why did you go back when you were so much closer when you was up here? Stay up there, be happy here, and keep shooting.
Got a question.
Sure.
Got everything you said. When it comes to, you talked about striving for happiness and a lot of people not being able to define it. If someone is able to define what happiness is happiness achievable?
Again, you have to look at what they're defining. Are they
Mhm.
defining happiness or are they defining a state in which they want to be in which they believe will make them happy? If the answer is B, once they get to that state and they stay there for longer than 5 minutes, happiness will start to fade away because happiness was never within them once they achieve that state. Nothing outside of you is going to make you happy.
Mhm.
Happiness must come from inside. Once you recognize that, then I'll stop putting it on you when saying that it's your job to make me happy, or it's my supervisor's job to make me happy, or it's the government's job to make me happy. No, no one has that responsibility but you. Now, when I own that responsibility, where does happiness come from? Is it found in the thing? No, no one has that responsibility but you. But what if I achieve the status? No, no one. You see, the answer is still the same.
Mhm.
So even if you can define it, you'll find that in your definition lies a flaw. And if you give me about 30 to 45 minutes of very focused conversation, we'll find that flaw. I guarantee
Mhm. I like that answer. I like it a lot.
you.
I did, because I thought the answer was going to be different, and shame on me for trying to assume a certain thing. Um, I like that answer though. Yeah, man, I like it. But I think, yeah, kind of keep going back to internal. Even as I'm playing around with this in my mind right now, and I'm just like, yeah, man. Once I move to the next state in a couple of years, and I get off this plantation, and I ain't working for nobody anymore, and I get my land, and I get my chickens and stuff like this. I'm just like, man, it's gonna be life. Really gonna be living. Really gonna be happy. But all of that stuff, like you to your point, is all external stuff. The house, the chickens, the move, all of that stuff. So now I'm trying to go back to trying to make it more internal. You know what I'm saying?
Let,
And
let's,
it's
let's, let's, let's do this. Do you remember when you
yeah,
first bought that house?
yep.
Were you happy?
Yeah, in the moment, but I knew it wasn't long term, so it was definitely short lived. So yeah, I was happy in the moment.
But did you have that same see that face you made just now? That same
Uh-huh.
face. Did you
Yeah.
have that same face when you got them keys though? You
No,
see what
I
I'm
was
saying?
happy when I got them keys.
Exactly. That's the point that
Yeah.
I'm making. Like, you're literally proving my point in real time. Like,
Mhm.
I don't care who you are. If you buy a brand new house or a brand new car, you are
Mhm.
happy when you get them keys. But
Mhm.
once you settle into it, it's like it's just another house now.
Yep,
In fact, if I buy another house, I'll be happy again for the moment
for the
because
moment.
that house can't make you happy. That car can't make you happy. It's a virtual impossibility. And that's one of the issues that we had, especially in our younger state, because they're like, "Oh, if I make this amount of money, I'll be happy. Life will be great." And then when you make it, be like, "Well, I'm here. Now what?"
Mhm.
Exactly. And that's what that's man, I could stay here, just here for like the
Yeah.
next 30 minutes because
Uh-huh.
I'm telling you, this is one of the biggest issues with positive affirmations.
Mhm.
We will project in the atmosphere what we believe our positive affirmation is, but I don't have the thing in me that believes this thing that I'm saying. I'm saying it more so for the people who are hearing it than I'm
Mhm.
saying for me. And and I'm not putting you on Front Street
Yep.
because everybody, I don't care who you
Mhm.
are, I don't care who you are listening, it's in you too. Everybody has it. Why? Because it's this big kid in you that's itching to get out. It can get out. It just has to get out the right way. It can't be in the stuff. It can't be in the other person. None of that stuff would be true. Because
Mhm.
the minute that I do that, that person will have a shelf life. That stuff will if you heard what I just said, I just told y'all something serious about your relationships. That person will have a shelf life because you
Oh.
place happiness around their neck, and now it was their
Mhm.
responsibility to make you happy, and they can't do it, and they kept failing, and then you started complaining about who they are and how they're showing up. Wait a minute. They've been that same person from day one, but you had them beer goggles on, you couldn't see it because you was expecting them to make you happy. I'm telling you, it doesn't change. It
Mhm.
doesn't change from whatever platform to the other you go to. And that's why I say we look at, and we said this before, we tend to look at the highlight reels of other people's lives, thinking, "Oh my
Yep.
God, man, Garfield is so happy. Like, look at what he and Shell doing on Instagram, man. That looks fun. Like that. I want to do that." But you don't know what took place in between this picture over here and this picture over here. Like, so many things happened in between here that you didn't get the glimpse of. And so we get caught up in, what social media is showing us and what Instagram and all that other great stuff because we're looking at the best versions of other people's lives. So we got to get to the point that we cut the hype. Like, are affirmations rooted in magical thinking or is it like mental rep training? Interesting.
Ooh.
But I do believe, though, I do believe that affirmations are what I tend to call present tense reminders of who we want to be. But here's the fact, for some, this feels more like a lie more than motivation.
Mhm.
And until we get to the root cause of the lie, unpack the lie, then we're missing. And so I leave you with this quote before I ask this question. Affirmations are not magic words, but they do reshape what your mind believe is possible. So if all of that is true, man, we're gonna get bogged down. I know it.
Mm.
If you feel awkward, not necessarily Garfield, just in
Mhm.
general, let's look at you as a general term. If you feel awkward about affirmations, what limiting beliefs are you really grappling with?
Mm. Feel awkward about affirmation. What limiting belief or beliefs are you grappling with? Um, I know one limiting belief is that people believe that if they speak about it, if they put it in the atmosphere, what happens if it don't come about? Because I'm gonna tell you, I did one last year, and I know it ain't gonna come about. But it might. I
Okay.
said last year that in 2025 I was gonna write my book. But all that was an affirmation while we were having a show. And I was in the moment. And at the moment, I thought that in 2025, I was going to write my book. However, that affirmation wasn't attached to anything else. It was just, ooh, there's a thought. Let me grab it. Let me speak this thing into its existence,
Mhm.
and then it's going to happen. Bruh, I started the book and I got outline. I got a lot of stuff done on it, but it ain't finished. And it more than likely it ain't going to be finished. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's one of those affirmations that people do. If you feel awkward about something like if you feel awkward about affirmations, what limited belief are you really grappling with? And you may just be grappling with the fact that you don't believe that what you're saying is actually going to come to fruition. So that's
Mhm.
kind of my limiting belief, right? That's where I want to start with.
I I like what you just did.
Mhm.
Right. I like what you just did because you told me about an affirmation that you made last
Mhm.
year, last year for 2025.
Yep.
And then in the midst of telling me about the affirmation that you made last year for 2025, you then just now said that
Mhm.
it ain't gonna get done.
Mhm.
And 2025 ain't over with yet.
Mm-mm.
Right? So I mean, I got it. I
Mhm.
understand. But I'm just saying, part of the reality of that is recognizing that 2025 ain't over with yet. There's
Yeah.
still 3 solid whole months left
Yeah.
to where
That part too.
if you dug in, you
Mhm.
can finish that book by 2025.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's just my thoughts. Now,
Mhm.
to this, I
Y'all
think,
missed
man,
that. I don't even know if y'all missed that. That was
I
coach.
hope that
You see what he did? You see what he did?
I
I
hope they
got you.
didn't
I
miss
see what you
it.
did. I ain't even mad at it though.
Right.
Make
But
note to self. Be petty and get coached back. All right.
no, not being
I'm
petty.
picking. No, I
Right, right.
accept it. I take
No,
that.
no, but that's the thing. I'm not being
Uh-huh.
petty, right? I'm actually being hopeful in the
Yes.
direction of the affirmation that you made, that you
Mhm.
actually just stuck up under the rug just now and say, "Yeah, I made it, but I ain't gonna do it." No, man, why?
Yeah.
You still got 3 whole months. Just get to
Uh-huh.
writing. Just get to
Yeah.
banging away at the keyboard and watch what happens, right? Let the magic happen. Um, I think when we look at this question, if you feel awkward about affirmations, what limiting beliefs are you really grappling with? I think the first one is that I'm not the person that will be able to accomplish that affirmation. I think that's a real thing. Sometimes when we make affirmations, because I really do believe sometimes we make affirmations based upon the company that we're around as opposed to where want to be. And here's the thing about it, that's not bad. That's not a bad thing because it's this thing that challenges me to be able to do something that I myself on my own probably would have never initiated in the first place. Like you got to let that part sink in because again, me making an affirmation around people that challenge me, that's a good thing. Now, all I have to do is put forth the activity that lines up with the affirmation for the affirmation now to be an authentic version of me. It's not that the affirmation, and this is the thing I think we miss a lot of times, right? It's not that the affirmation is 100% who you are. No, it's who you're trying to be, it's who you want to be. And so the thing that I must do is after the affirmation comes out of my mouth, put some action behind it, put some activity behind it, be consistent with the activity that I put behind it. Why? Because now I can actually get to the point of accomplishing that affirmation. And sometimes I think we get too much in our head after the affirmation comes out to where we never do anything whatsoever. The best part about what I heard you said is that I started writing. Right? So it's not that you don't believe that you're the person who can actually do it. You
Mhm.
probably just had so many other things going on and you never got around to it. I'm
Mhm.
again, when you said it, I pulled mine up and I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
All 100 and however many pages of it. I am literally on the I'm literally at the door of
Mhm.
being finished. Right. And I'm
Mhm.
only saying that not to brag, but as motivation. Because I think we both made the same affirmation right around the same time.
Mhm.
Right. So I think that's the thing. What are the limiting beliefs that I grapple with? I'm not the person that can actually be able to do it. What happens if I do it?
Mm.
What if I don't achieve the level of success that I think I can achieve? Who would want to read a book from me? Or who would want to listen to me or whatever? Like all of those things tend to play out in your head. Why? Because of your interpretation of your identity compared to your perception of the identity of the person who can actually do that. It's a lot.
Mhm.
Interpretation, perception, 2 different people. That's a lot
Yeah.
of foreign matter, right? So, again, I said a lot, bro. If you want to add anything to it, by all means, go ahead.
Man, no, we was on that one. I like that one. I like all that whole entire segment we just did about this question. I own it, man. Like, I get it, man. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this show.
Yeah, man. So, I think the next one is, like, what's more potent, affirming who you aspire to be or accepting what you're actually hiding from? And this is just an
Mm.
A or B. Yeah,
Ooh.
if you don't mind, tell me why.
Mm. So the easy answer for me is to say both. And it depends on what stage of life you're at.
Okay.
You know, um, I think when you're young and you're 19 and someone says, "Hey man, young man, you're gonna be a preacher or you're gonna go out and you're gonna do great things." You like, man, you mean to tell me I'm gonna be up here? I ain't trying to hear none of that mess.
Yeah.
Now somebody at 49 tells you, "Hey, you're gonna be this or you can do this." You like, you know what? I can do that.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of that part right there. As far as the level of maturity and where we are and what stage of life we're at, and then we affirming who you aspire to be, kind of the same thing with that. Where are you at in life? But if I had to pick one, the more potent one is what you're hiding from. I think
Mm,
for me is, accepting what you're hiding from because, with ego and shame, those things would come, being exposed or, going down a certain alley or, just hiding from certain things. I think all of those things can sometimes rear its ugly head, and that's why sometimes you're hiding from these things. And that's why sometimes you don't want to be exposed, So I think, accepting what you're really hiding from. But I also think it's more potent. But I also think that breakthrough from that is who is can be super great too. Because when you decide that, hey, I'm no longer hiding from this, you know what? I do have this going on in my life, or this, I do accept this flaw in my life, but that doesn't define who I am. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix it. I'm going to figure out how to get over it. And then I'm going to move forward with my life. So, again, um, what's more important, affirming who you are to be, or accepting what you're actually hiding from? For me right now, I'm leaning towards the second one, accepting what you're actually hiding from. But I see I see the other one too.
Yes, sir. I don't disagree with one thing you said. In
Mm,
fact, I will add more to what you said, not going back to restate the same thing because there's no need
mhm.
to restate that. If I do not accept what I'm actually hiding from, then me affirming who I aspire to be, I may even become somewhat successful with affirming who I aspire to be and start progressing along that path. But eventually, what I'm actually hiding from will continue to show up every step of the way
Yep.
because we're in a relationship. Make no mistake about it. You're in a relationship with that thing. And so, why is it important to accept what you're actually hiding from? First and foremost, let me clear something up just in case somebody's trying to figure out, like, accept it. What do you mean accept it? Accepting it is not saying that, oh, well, come on, let's go, little buddy. No, that's not what we're saying. I think we compartmentalize a lot of things in our lives that we don't necessarily want to contend with. And so what we do is we try to put it on the shelf and leave it on the shelf and think we can move on with our life until something happens that puts you right back into the situation to where you have to decode that thing that's on the shelf so that you can recall what you did when that thing happened as well. So moving forward, and I'm just making it as simple as I can possibly make it. If I at one point in time was addicted to drugs and I got over drugs, but I didn't go to, the clinic to actually go through the process of getting over drugs, right? I had some people who cared a lot about me and they just kept me away from drugs, which just simply means I now have created space between me and drugs. I have not yet been delivered from it. It's two totally different things. So when I get to the point of aspiring, affirming who I aspire to be, and I start marching in that direction, I'm starting to get these successes and things of that nature. And next thing I know, I'm in a room with a whole bunch of dudes, and next thing you know, somebody pulls out some drugs. What do you think is going to happen? Because I'm more attached to the perception of them that they have on me about being in this room because I'm trying to get somewhere and this is part of it. So now I am more susceptible to the drugs in this environment because I never actually dealt with the thing that I was hiding from, which in essence was those drugs. Very simple example. I made that as simple as I possibly could be because drugs can be replaced with anything. That's
Mhm.
anything, right? But drugs is easy to process when it's talking about this. If you don't get to the point of accepting what you're actually hiding from and deal with that thing at such a degree to where you do not have to hide from it again, I promise you that relationship that you guys have right now, it will show up at a later point in time. And when it show up, it's going to be at the least opportune moment. And that's probably one of the reasons why you see people on TV all the time being embarrassed because this happened and that happened and that happened because they never got to the point of actually accepting the thing that they're hiding from.
Mm. Yep. I'm I'm thinking back over my life about things that I struggled with for a long time, hunting,
Mhm.
back in the day. And man, you like, man, I'm good. You like, man, you go to church for a couple of weeks or so like this for a couple of months. You know what I mean? You get tapped in, you're back into you reading your word and all this other stuff. And you like, man, I'm good over here. You know what I mean? I ain't talk to nobody.
Hmm.
I ain't even talk to God about it. I'm just like, I'm good over here. And all of a sudden, it just walked by that line, that gazelle walked by. You like, darn it. I'm just saying, if you out there hunting and you
Right.
like, darn it, man, thought you was delivered. But the reality of it was you never really was delivered because, like you said, you just created space. You never really
Mhm.
dealt with the issue. You just been hiding behind it, and
Yeah.
like I said, I remember, I can see that in a couple of other areas of my life too, is where I was, hiding from some things. But it's a lot more life is a lot better when you actually do start dealing with those things and then
Sure.
go through the process of being in recovery from those things because when you've been hunting for 20, 30 years, it's you know what I mean, you've been that's a long time,
Yeah.
and takes um it takes a shift in your mindset to get to a different place into your life to where you realize that that's no longer acceptable. And even though you know it's not acceptable, now you start putting the application behind it's no longer acceptable. It's not just something that you say. It's not just words I wake up and say, hey, today I'm gonna be good. Today
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go hunting. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, what information are you learning to learn how to change your mindset so you're no longer have the mindset to even want to be out there doing those things? So I don't know why I went down that road, but
No,
somebody
you're
probably
good, you're good, and I'm smiling because I had an analogy based
mm,
upon what you just said.
mhm,
When you go outside in the evening time and mosquitoes be hovering around you, trying to bite you,
mhm,
it's the mosquitoes are attracted to the blood.
mhm.
I'll say it again, the mosquitoes are attracted to the blood. It ain't got nothing to do with the color of your skin. I know that's what people like to say, right? But this
Your
mosquito
smell.
right, the mosquitoes are attracted to the blood. Sometimes we'll put mosquito repellent on thinking we're delivered from the thing, not even realizing that no, the mosquito repellent is actually repelling, but the blood is still there.
Mhm.
Now, if you heard what I just said, you heard what I just said. Some people
Mm,
think, like you just said, some people think that they have been delivered from the thing, but the only
mhm.
thing they have is a repellent of the thing,
Yep.
right? Okay, I'll make it make sense. Okay, let me speak plain language then. Going back to the exact same analogy you just used, right? If
Marriage don't stop the hunt.
huh?
I would say marriage don't stop the hunt.
Marriage don't listen, man. That's what I was getting at. Like I hate to say it. It
Mhm,
marriage doesn't kill the hunter. It just repels the prey.
mhm,
That's all it does. But again, after a certain point in time and space will present itself,
mhm,
and then opportunity will present itself, and
mhm.
then you'll realize that that hunter in you is still alive.
Yep.
So that's the thing that we have to, and I'm only using that analogy because you brought it up because I know a lot of people who one time they were hunting and then 2 weeks later they married. Like, wait, whoa, what just happened? Like, how did
Mhm.
you good? Like
Yeah.
that's like I don't even know what to
Bro,
say. Like,
we was
you
just hunting
good?
2 weeks ago. Me and you, we was hunting
No,
together.
no, no. I stopped. No, they were hunting 2 weeks
Yeah,
ago, and I
yeah,
was trying to tell them, like, look, man, like you good? Okay, I
yeah.
just
Yeah.
want to make sure. But in my mind, I'm okay. Maybe cold turkey is a thing in in this situation, but not my business. I stress that piece. Not my
Mhm.
business. I just want to make sure you good. Because what I don't want is a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning. My husband over there. Nope, I got
Nope.
do not disturb on,
Mhm.
and you was not on the no, sir, not me.
Yep.
So again, deal with the thing. Right? Stop pushing it off. Stop allowing it to sit on the shelf dormant as oh, well, it ain't bothered me in the last 3 weeks. Doesn't matter. Deal with the thing
Yep.
because that thing has a toe chain wrapped around you and you don't even know it yet. So I don't know how we ended off
Just
on
like
that
you
rabbit hole.
said, the most unopportune time
Yeah,
too.
man. Absolutely.
Worst time. And here's the
Ab-
thing about it. When you get to a point in your life where you understand the ebbs and flows in a journey, expect it. You already know it's going to show up. Just expect it and just know how to handle it when it show up. Ma'am, I don't have a license to hunt. I'm good. Peace.
yeah.
Good.
And it has to be authentic. It just can't be
Yes.
some random, oh, I'm playing hard to get.
Affirmation.
No, it has
Yep.
to be authentic.
Mhm.
Yeah, man, I don't know how we ended up there. Um,
Mhm. 'Cause all they gotta do is say, "Well, I'll sign off. You don't need no license to hunt over here." And then next thing you know, you like, "Darn it." Rebuttal. But yeah, man, don't miss them days.
yeah, man. All right, we're gonna move forward from hunting now.
Yes, sir. No more hunting.
Listen, the only affirmations that work are the ones your soul can stomach. I'll say it again. The only affirmations that work are the ones your soul can stomach. If you're forcing it,
Mm,
your mind knows the difference.
yep.
Sometimes you need to start neutral before you go positive. I'm learning instead of I'm great. Man, listen, mm. There's and it's wrong. I'm gonna say it right now before I say it. It's
Uh-oh.
wrong. I've heard
Mm,
people say, "I'm great." I'm like, "No, you're not." That's wrong, and I'm saying it
mhm,
up front. I should not
mhm,
even have that thought in my mind
mhm,
about somebody else because that's wrong. But
mhm,
it's like, I know because I know the person. I know that they're struggling with this, they're dealing with that, they're wrestling with this and all this other great stuff, but then I'm great. No, like, sometimes you gotta be like, "I'm learning, I'm
mhm.
growing, I'm getting there. I'm not there yet, but in due time." There's nothing wrong with that. And so this quote by Bhagavad Gita, man is made by his belief. As he believes, so is he. It sounds very
I've
similar
heard that before.
to right. Sounds very similar to a Bible scripture. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Right. And so I think I want to dive into the fact that mindset matters. Authenticity over cheerleading. I'll say it again. Authenticity over cheerleading. I want you, the consistency coach, to share with me and the people in
The
all
people.
the land what is meant by mindset.